Hello and welcome to the 67th edition of the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap. Yep, it's been that many episodes, even though I keep getting it wrong, and last week I said it was the 65th, but it was actually the 66th, and next time I'll probably say it's the 73rd, I don't know. I'm not very good at this, but we have fun anyway. Now, it is totally not Thursday afternoon, and we're pre-recording. This is live to you now on a Friday. But look, the timing doesn't entirely matter. Unfortunately, David couldn't make it today, and Graham's got some stuff to do tomorrow. So we're going to pre-record now. You can watch this on Friday, and I'll probably hang around so I can answer any questions or comments when this does actually go live out to the market. Now, bringing into the room my usual cohort in this adventure, Graham McDonald. Graham, still alive there, I see?
Yep, the drugs haven't killed me yet. I'm still on my heart medication, and apparently it's still beating on this Friday morning, so it'll be a win.
Yes. Now, any special cars on the shelf behind you?
Oh, yes, I do. I do have. In fact, I'll tell you what, I've got better than that. I've got a pocket car. Hang on a second. This is completely unscripted. I can find it.
It's always unscripted, people. We don't script these things.
I can't believe
you can't script the magic we capture on this video / podcast.
I'll tell you I've got a better one. Hang on a second. I've got the shelf up here. This is a Japanese import car dealer special. I have a 82 Toyota Supra wide body. Now, you remember those guys when we were bringing in Celica XX Stargazers and GSR Turbos and Cyborgs and bits and pieces, and the wide body Celica Supra Mark II. That was the car of the moment. So yes, there's the Graham's Hot Wheels of the day. It's pretty cool.
Was my Supra technically a Mark II or a Mark III, Graham? Yeah, a Mark III, my Supra.
You had a Mark III. They were the really big, I was going to say fat, ugly ones, but they were the ones where they were a bit too...
Gorgeous.
They're worth a lot of money now. Of course, the premium Supra is still the Mark IV, of course. May I say so myself. But, you know, if you couldn't afford a Mark IV, I suppose you could shuffle down the ladder to a Mark III, Richard, sure.
Yeah. If you jump on online and dig through the AutoTalk back issues, there's a lovely story about Neeraj Lala's beautifully restored Mark IV. Just dig back, worth a look. Very nice car. But now we, as I said, David isn't with us this week, but we do have a third person to the party, and that is Amos Bambury from Better. Thanks for joining us, Amos.
Awesome, thanks for having me.
And you're in your new offices. You guys just relocated. You're settling in there well.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We've got a beer fridge, so everybody's happy. Now
it's 10 o'clock on a Friday morning. Do you have a beer?
Yeah. Well, if they're settling deals, they can do what they want. That's probably what mine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Isn't that called financial lubrication there, Amos?
Yeah.
Now, not to look like I'm promoting, a company that's very much supported AutoTalk and our work over the last couple of years, but it's the school holidays. You guys are a great kind of service for when the business manager's gone off with their kids on break, aren't you?
Yep, totally. Yeah. As much as weekends, etc. I think definitely a good coverage for when someone's away, covering those guys that maybe could or couldn't do it at the time. So yeah, it's been good. Yep.
Awesome. And both of you busy? I mean, has the school holidays slowed much down? Or is the election already done that?
Yeah, we were already a bit of a slow cycle out here, but I was talking to a couple of West Auckland dealers yesterday, and yeah, it's definitely been slow. There's no doubt about it. Combination of election, lack of hope, I suppose, and uncertainty, and the holidays. We find up here the holidays always kick our butts because Aucklanders tend to go everywhere else in the country but Auckland. They come and see you, actually, Amos. They come down your way. Probably go and buy all their cars and bring them back up again. But no, it has been a bit quiet. I guess wait for people to get back to school, wait for the election to do it. Can it just be over yesterday and then we can get back to regular business?
Yeah. Yep. The school holidays hurt the finance volume much, Amos?
Yeah, I think it's spot on to what Graham's saying. I think we are still seeing the same amount of people across the board, across New Zealand, but settlements definitely, that urgency piece where someone might be not living their daily lives, that's definitely same sort of, comments from Graham there, just getting over that final hurdle to actually go through and settle a deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you can, Graham, if you want to get that selection over early, go early vote, and then you don't have to worry about it. You just switch off from all the leaders' debates and avoid the newspapers and just be done with it. I'm very tempted to just go do that.
I have done, actually. I haven't watched a single election debate. I do plan to go and vote, not tomorrow, but on Saturday. I've sort of withdrawn from politics as best I can, but I am going to a funeral tomorrow, very sadly, actually, down in central Otago, for a real figurehead in one of the political parties that I'm obviously will have been involved in, and it'll be a bit of a who's who, I think, of political figures attending, and it's a little bit bittersweet, I guess. You never really get politics out of your blood, I don't think, as much as you try. But I think everyone that I've spoken to, everyone in the political circles has said the same thing. Let this be over. We've just had enough. Everyone's had enough. It's like gone on 2 weeks too long. Doesn't
matter what the outcome is, just get it over and done with.
Yeah.
I think there's pluses and minuses both ways this time.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, well, let's get moving with the news of the week. And if we start off, we actually have, I guess, a little bit of discussion that somewhat relates to the election, and that's we've got the statistics for the market. So market warping factors continue to hit registrations. New vehicle market is continuing to feel the impact of external factors hitting it hard, including the uncertainty around the clean car discount and shipping congestion. Though I suspect now, I saw some statistics the other day saying that I think there's only about a 2% chance we won't get a change in government, which means I would say the uncertainty around the clean car discount is pretty much done with now. It's more just people waiting for the new environment. In September 2023, there were registrations of 8,150 new passenger cars, a decline of 23% from 10,586 units in September 2022. Toyota topped the market, up 25% over last year, followed by Mitsubishi, and then Tesla, interestingly. Tesla, they have a habit of, they'll do like one big month a quarter, and then they tend to potter around at a bit of a lower level. And then we had Ford, MG. Tesla Model Y was the most popular passenger car, followed by the Toyota RAV4 and the Mitsubishi ASX, which is just like, it's an interesting car. That just keeps on going and going and going. In commercials, Toyota top commercials, but it was the Ford Ranger that was the top ute. So a interesting month overall for the new car market. And then if we go over to the import side of the trade, it was actually a pretty good month for imports. Used import market was solid in September, strong in the context of recent months, even if not at record levels. Passenger registrations were up 21.3% for the month, 8,921, while commercial registrations, which they aren't really as big of a chunk of the market as they are on the new car side, were down 22.8% to 430. Still a strong focus on small hybrids. Twitter dominated sales with 4,317 units, up 59.1% on last year, and accounting for 48.4% of the market. That is massive. I mean, Graham, I've got to ask you, do you pretty much just need to sell Toyotas these days when it comes to the imports?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to tell my competition what to go and do I? Look, you guys go knock yourself out all the Subarus you want. BMWs, Audis, have at them, guys. They're really good sellers. Off you go. Well, look, Toyota command around 54% of the new car marketplace in Japan. So it's not really a surprise we're seeing those numbers creep up now in New Zealand as the Toyota juggernaut increases its market.
They're almost underperforming in the New Zealand market then.
We're just playing catch up though, because let's face it, what we see here is what happened in Japan 6, 7, 9, 10 years ago, filtering on through. And I suspect if you fast forward 10 years, we might find that 54% figure that we have Toyota might even be light. But I tell you, this is interesting numbers you put up there. The most interesting one I thought was that the Leaf made number 3 position of the best-selling imports. And I think, if I'm right, that's a record number of Leafs registered. 600 and something, I think it was. So that plays directly into the story we've been talking about. Everyone's jumped on the bandwagon of making sure they get their Leaf and their clean car discount of $3,500, because that's what it's worth, getting it in
450 units. And I guess the question I have around that is, we've always seen the Leaf kind of just 250 units month in, month out. That's always kind of been considered the supply level. Is it perhaps we've ticked over 3 years since, I think it's been about 3 years since the new model, 4 years since the new model. Is it possible we've seen the new model start to flow in and that's why? Are we perhaps seeing a change in the supply of Leaf?
No, I think if you look at the number of leases even going through auction in Japan, and you look at the number that we're buying over there, that's been reasonably constant. What I worry about now is we're advanced purchasing so quickly in September and probably October and November. We'll actually, let's say, run out of stock. But I think you'll find stock levels of leaf will run pretty low coming towards Christmas, because you know that you've got to buy it sooner than later to get your rebate, and people are going to be advanced purchasing, and that's going to run stock down.
So this is traders essentially getting in ahead of December and just making sure they've got enough stock for the last minute rush.
Oh, no, if you're talking registrations, I think registrations are actually public.
Of course, yes.
That's public. That's not driven by traders. The biggest issue traders have is that right now you're beginning rolling the dice. If you wanted to go into Japan right now and buy a whole lot of leaves to get here in time so you could plate them, can you get them here and compliant in time? Because if you can't, there is a whopping great financial penalty for doing so. So you really are taking some calculated risks now. I would say for most buyers, they've done their chips when it comes to their leaf allocation. They've got all they can. They've stuffed it down the pipe. But when that's gone, if that runs out in November, it's gone. What do you think, Amos? Is that your take on it?
100%. I think it's spot on. I think you don't want to be caught with a yard full of them, I don't reckon, rolling into end of the year, first quarter next year.
Nope.
You're obviously a former trader, Amos. Did you have a habit of like chasing the trends as such, like this kind of short-term opportunity, or just stuck to your knitting?
I think it was a bit of both. I think also it's the fact that you want to be at the front of the trend, so you're the one that actually capitalises the most at the start, and then the movement off that. So a lot of it was for me was actually making sure I was doing those trips to Japan for that exact reason. Yeah.
And what was interesting was just, sorry, Richard, because it's on the leaf subject. The other trend I've seen the last couple of months is the price of used pre-registered leaves, particularly Gen 1, Gen 1.5 has plummeted. There's a lot turning up on trade, a lot more than I've seen, and the price of them is absolutely tanked. Buyers are definitely suddenly, and this is all due to the fact people think there's going to be, well, there'll be road user charges of some sort next year. We don't know when or how, but that's the other end of it. People have got the frighteners on them that there'll be road user charges, and suddenly those older leaves are just not sexy anymore at all. They've become really hard to move.
I also think they're just starting to hit end of life for some of those batteries, particular stuff from the Auckland market. I think where a lot of them have been over DC charged because of free EV charging, and also obviously I think the second generation is really starting to, well, I think technically the third generation, but the new shape, the 40 kilowatt model, finally seems to be starting to come down to a price where it's becoming viable for a lot more people. Because what are they running at now, Graham? They were running at like $40,000 for a long time, but they're down quite a long way now, aren't they?
We're well in the sort of the 20 to high 20s bracket now. Stuff around 30 grand is now getting pretty pricey. They've come down a long way.
Yeah. Now, with the used car market staying up quite high, that must be pretty good for you guys. It must be pretty good for the finance and insurance market, actually having a market that's kind of holding up during the run-up to the election rather than everyone just hiding away.
Yeah, totally. And then also, as soon as you go into daylight savings, you're also opening up that whole broader aspect of marine and two-wheelers, motorbikes too. Because it's like that's all on now, that sort of stuff. It definitely has a bit of a swing, caravans too.
Definitely. Now, well, just going on from that, and I'll bring up this on the thing, is that we've had the Centrix report come out, and loan financing, or vehicle loan requests are definitely up. Recent growth of the new vehicle loan financing and credit card lending have driven non-mortgage lending numbers up 2% from last year. That's according to the Centrix indicator report for August 2023. The writer being the figures remain low on pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels, down 2%. Looking forward to the business sector, both credit defaults and company liquidations were up across the board year on year as the realities of the current climate continue to impact Kiwi businesses, the report adds. Vehicle loan arrears increased to 6% of active accounts, a 3-year high, while credit card arrears edged up slightly to 4.3%, but still remain low when compared to historical levels. It's an interesting time for credit. We've obviously seen the number of vehicle loans being written compared to the old people walking in saying they had cash but were really borrowing off the mortgage. That certainly switched in the balance towards the vehicle loan side in the last year or so. Are those arrears concerning, Amos? Are they high historically, you think?
We get patted down by everyone constantly about where arrears are sitting, delinquent loans, etc. So I think a lot of it, if you're putting in consistent information, we've got to rely on the ones that are like making those calls on the yes and no. But yeah, I think definitely the appetite's probably more swinging away from that sort of like the Luna stuff, more the ones that actually probably can't even get insurance to actually use the vehicle what they're wanting to. So yeah, that's.
Do indicators like that coming out, Centric's putting out a survey like that, perhaps feed into making it harder to get those yes and no's? I mean, does that kind of information feed into the decision makers, and we'll now see them maybe tighten the screw a little bit over the next month or two?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I think like we're obviously a fierce reader of that sort of information constantly, especially that report. But you know what we receive in from a CCR score point of view is very consistent from an application across from our dealers across New Zealand. So I think what we're seeing is still consistent. The movement of household expenses and that sort of thing, it's probably more, I really feel the lenders are continually to dial into that side. Like it's really dialing into the affordability process. There's a lot more recently where, you know, your credit places are more dialing into, you know, the support process of helping out a client after the fact from financial services point of view, as they're really dialing into, should you have put this person into a loan and what would their real clear affordability and household expenses. And I feel like that's the one that's really pushing on that report.
I guess the issue being is that if a company does go and, you know, repo a vehicle, they could potentially then be on the hook for complaints that they shouldn't have never have lent them in the money in the first place.
That is exactly that. Yeah.
A question on that, Amos. Oh, sorry, Richard. Is 6% the new 10%? So we're in an era now, we've been working through responsible lending practices for the last couple of years or more. And so I'd argue and say that probably half the loans that are now on the books have been written under the new protocols. And therefore, if you would assume that the failure rate should be lower just by the fact that we should be writing better business. Back in the old days, sort of, I think sort of 15, 20 years ago, 10% was sort of seen as the line in the sand between, you know, we're doing okay and we're not doing okay in terms of arrears. Is that 6% figure, you think now that's really, we shouldn't be any higher than that? That's sort of getting towards what we used to view as a 10% oh shit moment?
Yeah, you're talking about the percentage of the book that
arrears.
Withhold and arrears. Yep. Yeah. It's funny you say that. I think all that triple CFA change, all it did was it made it harder for good people. That's what it did.
Really? Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
We know. I'm being sarcastic here. We talk about the whole, you know, how many McDonald's did you have last week? Ooh, a coffee.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely true. I mean, but you saw it day in, day out, day out. Of course, it actually just knocked back people that should ever getting financed. But I would have thought at the bottom end, in theory, it knocked out a lot of the business that we used to, as a trade, collectively do that we no longer see, and that would bring the average up or down, if you know what I mean.
I guess the question is what does it mean in regards to the split between private and business? I mean, triple CFA made it certainly hard for people to buy a car on their own, but it's still really easy to go and have any small business or anyone with a GST number write up a finance contract on a ute. We're in a market where some businesses are really struggling, and I mean, could that be a lot of that kind of business there starting to fall over? I guess is the other question. Graham, the question I was going to ask you was, is there ever a time when you're in your dealership life where you've looked at someone who's come in for finance and you know that if you push it far enough down the line, you could probably get them into a car, but it's a bit of a case of just because you can doesn't mean you should kind of situation? Have you ever faced that call on the yard?
I'd say every week, Richard, and that's not a word of a lie there. Every week we see those sort of situations where you know that it gets a point where you can either just not ask the questions you know you have to ask, and therefore you don't get the answer that they don't want to hear, or you can just refer them elsewhere, or you just know what's happening here. And it's increasingly prevalent with new immigrants to New Zealand, where there's been a big wave of immigrants coming in requiring finance on work visas, contracts and things, where you just don't want to scratch too deep. And I'm not having a holier than thou attitude on this one either, because let's face it, we're all amongst friends in the industry here. This is not really a publicly taken up show. Is we've taken the pathway to not actually deal there. And if we're going to go towards that sort of third tier and below, just don't go there. It's not actually worth the disaster that it could be if you end up shortcutting on the process to get the loan through. If you just close your eyes to the bit you know you should close your eyes to, we'd rather not. And I suspect a lot of dealers are in the same boat, where you see stuff all the time that you just know you suspect, and if you ask the question, it's all finished. You're better off just asking the question and letting them walk.
And Amos, do you think dealers sometimes should be making, I guess, ethical decisions about whether they do push forward with a finance contract?
Yeah, hey, we've all got to fit under that ethical banner of, responsible lending. That's our commitment to any facility that we have. So, I'm definitely the kind of guy like, let's get a deal done. That's my.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, what we've got to do is we've got to be able to lean back on the facts should something happen down the line, and it's like, well, this is why we said this and this is why we said that. And I think that's based on even good record keeping. However you deal with that client in front of them is like, this is why I said that. So then you can back up on that. But yeah, we all have an obligation to exactly even like what you both saying about the performance of your own account. And a lot of that is based on the right information that we put in at the start. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a look at another statistic that I guess is an indicator of what could be coming, and that's both new and used arrivals were steady in September. A number of new and used vehicles arriving on New Zealand ports in September 2023 remained steady, with a total of 25,253 units landing, according to the latest data from New Zealand Customs. More than 10,500 new cars and 12,075 used cars arrived on the wharfs in September. Year to date, as of the end of September, new car arrivals total 73,868 units, and used car arrivals totaled 89,878 units. It's an interesting number in the context of the full year, I think, considering the balance we've seen between the two sides in recent years. Commercial vehicles, arrival of used trucks and vans under 3,500 kg totaled 417 units for September, with a year-to-date total of 3,291. Arrival of used trucks and vans over, a total of 17 units. New trucks and vans, or new utes and vans basically, 1,500 units for the month of September year-to-date, and total number of arrivals is 19,812 units. The interesting thing, I think, looking at those numbers is that the used import market on both sides of the fence looks like it's going to be relatively well stocked. The new car market looks like it's running they're starting to shrink down what they're bringing in. I'm hearing a lot of talk about there being a lot of stock on the ground, particularly in respect to electric vehicles. Not sure what you guys are hearing out there, but I wonder if people are just being a little bit cautious about what they land over the next couple of months. Yeah, interesting one.
I think now, we can paraphrase that story and say shipping. So there's two things to it. One is obviously stock levels that you're holding and forward ordering, but at the end of the day, the shipping, certainly in the used sector anyway, there's been great improvements in the ability to get stock from Japan to New Zealand in the last 3 or 4 months or so. And so those numbers, once again, we see landing here are a product of what we did in Japan 3-4 months ago, or 5 months ago in some cases. Just better access now to ships and schedules. We're seeing the stock on the ground.
Now, last week we discussed Too Cheap Cars, and we were like, wow, it's going to be really sad to not have this story giving us lots more fodder to work with.
Not again. God, please. No.
Too Cheap Cars defends breach of company rules and receives a public censure. Too Cheap Cars has defended its actions regarding a breach of listed company rules, which led to a $40,000 fine from the New Zealand Markets Disciplinary Tribunal. Additionally, the company was publicly censured by share market authorities due to the breach. The previously reported case, which stirred some industry gossip, revolved around the winding down of its finance subsidiary NZ Motor Finance. It comes just a week after the purchase of co-founder Eugene Williams' shares by former partner David Sena. Now, I'm gonna just pull this off the screen, and I'll explain this in a nutshell because it's an interesting one. So, Too Cheap Cars, when they were going through all as the directors called it last week, somewhat insensibly, the troubles, they were winding down New Zealand Motor Finance. The director of New Zealand Motor Finance left the company. I'm sure that's a whole different story. And Gordon Shaw, well-known industry operator who was acting as an independent director, so an independent director is not allowed to work within the company. The idea is that they are independent. Took on an 8-week contract with NZ Motor Finance, I gather basically calling in the money and collecting in receivables for the company. that broke the rules. They've been told off, and they've said they don't. They did do something naughty that they don't deserve to be told off.
So
Yeah. Look, I feel like they set themselves up enough in the AGM last week just to go, we're sorry, this was an interesting time for the company, we shouldn't have done it, let's move on, rather than all this saying how they don't believe they should have been punished that way, and they said they didn't deserve the fine they got, and so on and so forth. Yet the numbers they gave for saying they didn't deserve the fine was that I think Briscoe's did the same thing for 4 weeks and got fined $75,000. They did it for 8 weeks and got fined $40,000. So I'm not sure how their logic plays out there in suggesting that, in bringing up that case.
I'll say it again. Buy the car, take it to New Zealand, sell the car, take the money, go to Japan. Buy the car, take it to New Zealand, sell the car.
Was there much talk about NZ Motor Finance in the finance industry, Amos? I mean, it was an interesting, if short-lived operation.
Yeah, not really on my world. We didn't have too much crossover. If we were doing a deal direct for a client, buying off too cheap, it was just, we were just dealing with the client directly. So it's really just, just quite separate.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope that that's the end of these things, and that Eugene Williams doesn't have an interview with a certain magazine that's coming out next week. Just saying. We might get to talk about it again next week. See how we go.
I feel sick already. I might be away next week. Feel unwell.
Right. Now, in a really interesting move, Toyota New Zealand has acquired a rental car company. Toyota has announced the acquisition of Easy Car Rental, one of the largest New Zealand owned and operated rental car brands. The acquisition of Easy by Toyota Finance New Zealand was completed on October 2nd, 2023. TFS will run Easy as a separate business as it has with other acquisitions such as City Hop. Toyota New Zealand Chief Executive Neeraj Lala says this is an exciting opportunity for Toyota as the company transitions from an automotive to a mobility company. Toyota wants to become the mobility company for Kiwis by providing mobility solutions that are affordable and accessible, Lala says. The acquisition of Easy Car Rental allows us to focus on the opportunities in car usage as well as car ownership and sit alongside our ownership of City Hop, putting Toyota in a great position. Right.
It's, as I say, why hasn't it happened sooner? I'm surprised there hasn't been more acquisitions in the past. And famously, globally, is Ford with its ownership of Hertz. I'm not sure what their connection is to Hertz anymore since the Chapter 11 or reorganisation of the company. But why hasn't it happened sooner? I would have thought it's just smart logistics.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what it does, Toyota decided they were largely exiting the rental car industry a few years ago. Yet there seems to be an awful lot of Toyotas when I go and rent a car. And I guess this means they have a way of staying in the rental car trade without necessarily having to discount. We also know that in recent years, although this was more off the back of their rental car dealings, they did have an awful lot of, anecdotally, an awful lot of aged used car stock that was floating around that potentially this gives them a chance to exit that stuff out to a channel when they can. I think Easy does a mix of new and slightly used cars. It arguably makes business sense. It's a little bit weird when they're saying they're exiting the rental car industry, but yeah, it's different. Will you be going to Easy for your next rental now, Amos, or stick with it?
Don't know. I think it's an awesome move though, because what it does as well is it feeds all your Toyota, like from Toyota New Zealand, it feeds all their dealerships good, 1 and a bit year old stock to 4-year-old stock. I think it's awesome, and it gives them great opportunity to sell that product.
Does it feed their dealerships though? Because I think Easy, as I said, sometimes that Easy doesn't necessarily run with new cars. Maybe it does. I need to look at this closer. I mean, will they at times be competing with the dealerships?
Well, I was going to say, I've just been renting a car in Queenstown for tomorrow, actually, and going through all the different options. And I'm pretty sure there are a number of different tiers, even around Easy, as to what I could pick up there. There was some older stock there. But do they have multiple sub-brands under the Easy banner, or is it just under Easy? Because a number
I
of
think
different
Easy.
large rental car companies have little sub, the budget brands
Yep.
beneath them.
Yeah. I think Easy is its own brand as such. Interestingly, I think most of a lot of the smaller ones have been mopped up by the bigger ones in recent years to play that game. I mean, obviously, Apex was Apex purchased by Avis, or
It was Apex, yes. It
yes,
might have been
Apex.
Avis, actually. Yes.
Yeah, Apex I think was mopped up by Avis, and I think it works for those companies. They get to basically run their vehicles through a second life, and utilize more of them. So it'd be interesting to see it. I guess the dynamic will be whether they shift Easy over to purely new car stock, or whether they do have it running some of their older stock, so on and so forth. It could be a little bit creative. Also gives them some flexibility in regards to things like certain models aren't moving necessarily, or so forth. You can park them in the rental car fleet for a while and make money out of them. And also it'll be interesting to see how they interact it with City Hop. I mean, potentially could we see people with City Hop accounts being able to access Easy cards more simply than they could. Whole pile of opportunities from it. I'm sure they'll do something interesting with it. We have a naughty trader, as we like to always have at least once in a while. Unregistered motor vehicle trader convicted and fined $5,500, so barely enough. An unregistered motor vehicle trader has been fined $5,500 in order to pay $500 towards legal costs after he was convicted of breaching the Motor Vehicle Sales Act 2003. Aucklander Michael Costello was convicted after a ME investigation charged him with one count of trading motor vehicles whilst being unregistered. The ME investigator found that Costello had 23 motor vehicles registered in his name from October 2017 to 29th of October 2018 while trading unregistered. The vehicles ranged from a Holden Commodore to a Suzuki motorcycle were subsequently and relatively quickly transferred in the names of other persons. At a judge-alone trial this year, Costello was found guilty of carrying on the business of motor vehicle trading. Without being registered at the trial, Costello claimed his driver's license was being used to transfer vehicles without his knowledge or permission. Bullshit! The judge did not find this claim either credible or reliable. Sentenced at the Manukau District Court to a reduced fine of $5,500 in order to pay costs. At sentencing, the judge agreed with the prosecutor's submissions that the fine was in the $14,000 to $16,000 range, however made significant downward adjustments to account for Costello's personal circumstances. Here's my question. One count of trading while unregistered. Now, was it 23 vehicles, whatever it is? Shouldn't that be, and what, you're allowed 5? So shouldn't that be 17 counts of trading while unregistered?
Oh, it's a mockery, isn't it, really? Let's face it, $5,500 over the course of 23 vehicles. That's actually a really good business smart decision there. I think that's an
probably less than paying the GST, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Let's drop our business pretenses now. That's actually cheap. So, again, we've talked about it before, where the whole system's just a mockery when it comes to, first of all, identifying unregistered traders. Let's face it, we're all much better at going to Facebook Marketplace, and we can find 10 within 5 minutes. Then apparently the various authorities are when it comes to identifying them, and then fines that are like a worse and worse wet bus ticket. They've got no idea, clueless. And then we've seen people that are up for their 7th, 8th, 9th count of unlicensed trading. And again, a big fine of $10,000. What's the incentive?
Yeah, exactly. Amos, finance is a heavily regulated market. Does it almost laughable how little regulation activity actually is undertaken within the dealer market, or the vehicle market, considering the similar impacts they can have?
Yeah, and the Facebook Marketplace was on the tip of my tongue, Graham, but you just touched on it, as I think the swing to that over the last 6 months has been crazy. Like from what we see, because we also go straight to client, and what we see from that side of the shift away from trade meat, and someone selling a car, they might have had 4 days, they can't prove where they got it from. It's just, it is a minefield. And this is what we deal with this multiple daily. And that proof of ownership piece, it's just crazy. And that's exactly what, that marketplace is furthermore unregulated will bring out. And it will continue to.
I remember years ago we would talk a lot about, whether trade meat should kind of be acting as a de facto policeman / regulator of this stuff. and they with the expectation that being the big gun in town that would drive all these people underground. Well, they sort of are. They sort of have put a lot of stuff in place now to help. But people have got somewhere else to go. They're no longer the only game in town, and so they've all just migrated to Facebook. I'm not sure Facebook's going to do a huge amount about it.
Well, do you know what the worst part about it all is? It's not that it's happening, is that people are buying them. Heavily. You know, people are buying these things time after time. They just don't care. I think I might have sent you, Richard. There was one that I found on Facebook Marketplace about 3 months ago. It looked to me like it might have been a SsangYong Rexton, had the plates from a Cherry J1. They were advertising it as a Great Wall XUV with the registration label of a fourth vehicle. How could you just not? And they're feeding all these questions, and it looked like they sold it because it's this is just how I bought it 2 months ago. And I'm paraphrasing the language here because it wasn't written in particularly high level English. There lots of zids and bits and pieces and does's and dizzes. And obviously somebody bought it out, but people just don't care.
What was the actual vehicle?
Who would know? The photos were of it was either a SsangYong Acteon Ute or it was a Rexton. I can't remember now. I've saved it on my phone. But there were 4 different identifying vehicles in the mix between the plates on the car, what the vendor said it was, what the photos were of, what the registration label was from, and there might have been a 5th component. It was hilarious, but they were deadly serious.
Now, totally aside, here's a fun game for you guys. So, if you ever see a car in New Zealand online or on the news or social media, whatever, doing something dumb, being parked stupidly, or for example, I saw a RAV4 the other day being driven down the sand dune somewhere, blah, 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 jump onto Carjam, because on there, of course, you can put photos in of vehicles by their number plates. And there's a real big online movement now that if any vehicle appears anywhere in social media or on the road doing anything dumb in New Zealand, someone will screenshot that and go and update the photo in Carjam to the photo of the car doing something dumb. It is awesome.
The poor Aqua. I don't know, Amos, did you see the clip of the poor little Aqua going across the harbour bridge? Did you see that one? It's about 3 days ago now. Oh, guys, people watching, you've got to see this. It's all over social media. They're going northbound over the harbour bridge, and they're on the middle lane when it was down to 1, with the barrier on one side of the bridge on the other. And it's like playing a game of dodgems, and they're just bouncing from side to side, smashing into the curb. And at one point, they actually ride up onto the concrete barrier, and they're still driving along, and they come back down again. They're doing only about 20 k's an hour, 25 k's an hour. There's a truck behind them recording it on the dash cam, the whole thing. And he's obviously pissing himself laughing, watching, but he's not quite sure how it's all going to work out. I'm not even sure they made it over the bridge. And if you went to Carjam, because obviously there's the vehicle, you go to Carjam and the photo is there of this poor little Aqua halfway up on the concrete barrier on the bridge, still being driven.
I'm Googling as we speak, because I kind of got to see it. Unfortunately,
I'll tell you a funny story associated with that goes back many years ago, because you've got a minute. Many years ago, you could still walk up Mount Tarawera. I can't pronounce it correctly. I'm so sorry. My English is bad. Tarawera in Rotorua. You could walk up from the bottom up to the top by yourself. And some friends of mine, this is back in the late 80s, early 90s, we were walking up to the summit, nearly at the top, and we heard this noise right down below, this, and it gets louder and louder and louder. The track up there is like a goat track like this. It's a serious 4-wheel drive, good weather, only rutted kind of, get up there with the tractor to the track. And eventually this noise gets so loud, and coming up the hill, there's a rental, I assume it's a rental, the way the plates bits and pieces, it was a new Mitsubishi Galant. It had 4, I'm going to say, Japanese tourists in it, and they were just had that at one speed. They obviously had it in first gear, and they had the foot flat down on the thing, and they were crawling up inch by inch through all and up and down, and smash and up and down, and they're all just sitting there, windows up, probably the air conditioning on, and this car, this poor little thing. We see some crazy. They made it. I don't know if Hertz made it with the car afterwards, but we see some incredible stuff out there on the road every now and then, and that feature on Carjam, it's priceless. Really good laugh.
Take a photo and put it on Carjam.
Did you find the Aqua?
Very good. Yeah,
I haven't. Do you want to? If you want to have a look while we're doing it and send me the link, I can potentially put it online. But we'll go bump onto the next couple of stories.
Yeah. Carry on, Jeeves.
Yes. No. Exactly. Oh, classic. Right, so this is a couple of nice ones here. We do love dealers moving forward as well. Solar panels reduce dealerships' reliance on traditional energy sources. To meet its long-term environmental objectives, Miles Twitter recently installed 171 individual solar panels on the roof of its dealership buildings in central Christchurch in an effort to utilise more sustainable energy sources. A total of 70 kilowatts of solar panels now sit above the dealership, helping to power all areas of the business, including vehicle sales, parts, service and administration, in addition to the wider Miles Group team members that operate out of the building. The panels were installed by solarpower.co.nz, who worked after business hours to complete the job because the complications of installing solar panels on top of the roof of a busy metropolitan car dealership during the working day. The dealership says installing the solar panels is one of many environmental steps it is taking in all facets of its business. It's achieved a Toitu Enviromark Diamond certification. That sounds flash, which marks 5 years at this level and highlights its commitment to protecting the environment. That's pretty cool. Is there enough sunshine in Christchurch to run that many panels, Amos?
Not a cloud in the sky today. Boys, it's beautiful.
Oh, hang on. Is Graham? Have you sent me something, Graham?
Yeah, I found it. It's a beautiful day here in Auckland too, actually, but that's only because it's just it's Thursday. We've had Wednesday and Thursday. By the weekend, it'll be an absolute total disaster area again.
Yeah.
This year, 2023, boy, you wouldn't want to have money in solar panels. Richard's watching the clip now, isn't he?
I'm finding it. I can see it. Okay, let me see if I can put this online.
Call it a Friday funny. Poor people.
You sure it was an Aqua and not a
ASX?
ASX?
Maybe it was a Leaf.
It's an ASX, Graham.
Oh, are you sure?
Let's have a look. I think this is the one. Does this look like it?
You got the right one? No, that's a different one. Sorry, Soz. But that's from this week as well.
No, he's doing this. He's doing the same thing.
He's hitting the barrier.
Taking out the yellow posts.
Oh, maybe it is that one. Yeah, no, it is that one. Sorry, it's an ASX.
Can you guys hear the music? I'm going to turn the music off. He is taking out every yellow post. Oh, he stopped.
No, he's on the barrier. See, he goes up on the barrier. See.
Is he that scared of it?
Yep, there he goes again. He goes up again. The flag gets in the way.
That is crazy.
Yep. That is not one car that I trade in, just quietly.
That's part one. Part two. Oh, now he's on the barrier. Oof. Why would you go and put this flag in the middle of your thing? So LFY7. Okay, let's have a look. So there you go. That's it. That's it doing dumb things there. If I remove
that is just so hurty. That is so car hurty.
Now, if I go to Carjam, let's have a look at this.
See, Amos, the things we provide as a public service to the industry.
So good. So awesome. I can't wait to use Carjam after this chat.
There you go. Oh, gotta love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
Oh, the shame.
Yes. I think the game now has to be for someone to snap us in our cars and try and update the Carjam photos.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
so you got to look for me in my blue BYD, which has got a pretty obvious number plate. And you can decide if you want to say, well, everyone knows what you drive, Graham, but I'm not going to say it. Right. So let's see if by next week anyone's managed to snap us on Carjam. Cool. Now let's go on to find out where I am in the order of things. Here we go. Another little dealership construction thing. Construction begins on Armstrong's new Wellington Service Centre. Araki Construction Limited has begun demolition work at 8 Baker Street, Wellington, in what will eventually become a construction site of a new 21-bay service centre for Armstrongs. The new build at 8 Baker Street will eventually house brand new service facilities for Porsche New Zealand, Jaguar Limited, Jaguar Land Rover New Zealand, Audi New Zealand, and Volvo Cars New Zealand. Completion of the build is expected by July 2024, and it will sit next to Armstrong's modern retail facility at 20 Barker Street, Wellington. I'm guessing there's no shortage of service work for Range Rover Land Rover. Not that I'm saying anything, just, Graham. You know what I'm talking about. Now, a bit of an interesting story. Advertising on EVs increasing, but utes still on top. Automakers have come under the spotlight with recent data showing they are still spending more advertising gas guzzlers, quote, not us, that was the original author, as opposed to EVs. But the industry is hitting back and says the figures are already out of date. A recent report published by Radio New Zealand raises questions about the industry's emissions reduction commitments, highlighting figures and from data company Nielsen, which shows the spend on electric vehicle and hybrid advertising is increasing, but the vehicles with the most advertising include utes and SUVs. Toyota came out on top, spending $7.6 million over 3 years to 2022, marketing its double cab ute, the Hilux, according to Nielsen. I suspect Toyota spent more than that advertising the Hilux. I think they've missed a few counts there. Other brands such as Mitsubishi, Ford, Kia and Hyundai also spent significant amounts promoting the utes and SUVs. Radio New Zealand quotes Auckland University Dr. Kirsty Wild, an environmental sociologist and public health researcher whose research has found a link between consumer trends and advertising. The reason that more people driving SUVs is bad for the climate is because, well, the cars were getting more efficient and smaller, and so I can't be bothered with this.
Honestly,
fact
Richard,
that she's spouting.
It came from Pravda. I'm sorry, Radio New Zealand. How are you surprised with the tone this article took? Shock horror.
Well, here's the reality, University of Auckland. There weren't that many EVs to advertise in the 3 years up to 2022. And even though EVs make up, a nicer chunk of the market now, back then they didn't make up that big of a chunk of a market, and you spend the money where the market is.
Amos, you got a ute? Got a truck?
No, I did have a ute. I don't now.
I thought you did. I thought you had a truck.
Yeah.
Go us.
Rather nice one, if I recall. What are you driving now?
An X5.
I can practically hear the baby dolphins dying under the wheels as you drive.
We'll just assume it's the plug-in hybrid one. One. Yeah, and you probably didn't buy it because of advertising, because BMW actually seems to more advertise their electrics than they do anything else. So, yeah. Anyway. Right. Let's jump on to our last couple of stories, which are pretty linked. And that is we have the pricing, with some pricing change in the pricing announcement for electric cars. And the reason we put these on is because they are kind of groundbreaking, and it's not normally AutoTalk fodder. And that's so we've seen a price cut. So Aura has taken the title of New Zealand's lowest cost EV and a price cut on their Aura Good Cat. A major pricing shift from G. Williams' Aura brand has propelled it to the forefront of New Zealand's budget-friendly electric car scene. Great Wall Motors recently announced a revised pricing for their fully electric Aura hatchback. The base standard model range model is now available for $42,990. The long range one for $47,990. That's $5,000 down. That now means essentially you can have a electric hatchback for about $36,000, so cheaper than a Corolla, I think, is the argument they're putting out there. Now, until December. Now, Great Wall, of course, are saying this is because they, currency changes, blah, 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 blah. The reality is that launch hasn't gone that well for that brand, and they needed to move some cars, and I think this is a good sign. Good to see the prices coming down, and obviously, hopefully, they can sell them at a profit. And then here's one that those who do like a performance car might be a little more interested in, and that is that pricing has been announced for the MG4 X-Power. Now, get this, you can have for $63,000 if you get in before December and get a rebate, a car that will do, I'm going to pop it up here now, 3.8 seconds, 0 to 100. Now, I know from my youth, 3.8 seconds, 0 to 100 was what a supercar couldn't do, and you can now have that for the price of a pretty mid-range family sedan, if someone actually still makes a sedan. So yeah, 3.8 seconds, 0 to 100. This is the MG4 X-Power. That's the car there. It's not really showing up. I don't know why it's not working. It is a pretty impressive price for that kind of performance. Amazing what electric can do. Yeah, I will be looking forward to driving that one. If for no other reason than I can go and what's that? Good 2 seconds quicker to 100 than your Mustang, Graham?
You know, I was in the Mustang yesterday, Richard, and I gave it a bit of a feed coming onto the northwest, and that glorious 5-litre burble of just gasoline being burnt and unbridled passion. Sorry, did I go for a genuine electric car with you, Richard, that had an audio track that sounded like a crook wheel bearing to make up for the fact you didn't have any noise?
I believe that was a Mustang, Graham. I think that was a Mustang.
It was a Marquis, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. So, that's okay. Bye-bye.
Electric car fan, Amos, or not there yet?
Yeah, I like the noise delay, so I'm still the gasoline type. Yeah.
Yeah. I like noise. I like performance cars, but I like electrics too. I'm driving a Seat Cupra. Well, it's not Seat, it's gone. A Cupra Born this weekend, and it's supposedly a performance hatchback. But I went looking for the sound maker because I needed something, and there was none there. Yeah.
So, you know, we're all old men because we forget that the current trend has nothing to do with 5 litres or a rotary going bat, 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 bat. It's the crackle pop on your N-Series Hyundai or your Tuna Golf or bits and pieces. That's where it's all at now, guys. We are dinosaurs. Now it's the anti-lag crackle when you shift up in your Golf. There's got several that go past here, and it's just like a succession of rifle shots up and down the throttle the whole way. That's the new thing.
And that's why Skylines that you guys were selling and financing for maybe $6,000 or $7,000 12 years ago, 13 years ago, are now worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000.
Oh,
the days of anti-lag, right?
It hurts the amount of opportunity that was in front of us for so long.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, are either of you wishing you'd put aside an $8,000 GTT Skyline back in the mid 2000s and just locked it in a shed for whatever time?
I've told you,
yes.
I cut an RX-3 coupe up in 1991. Literally, I cut it. I needed a door and a guard and the Bridgeport out of it, and I cut the rest up and put it in a skip bin. Tags, plates, the whole lot. Who needed that? That was all the shit back in those days.
That would be a house deposit without even putting it back together.
Yeah, it's an Auckland house deposit. You got it. Yep.
Yeah.
GTRs. Oh my goodness. Oh.
What's the car that got away for you, Amos?
Oh, any of that JDM stuff. I'm a WRX, like that WRX Coupe STI stuff. I really like that. But it really anything that JDM, I just really appreciate it. I think it's beautiful. Yeah. I bought about 6 or 7 years ago a 80W11 MR2 for $2,500, and then 3 or 4 years ago I sold it for $5,000, and I thought I'm doing really well. That car would be 15 plus today. That's how fast that market's moving. So, but you can't dwell on these things too much. Or you can.
Well, I don't know. It's still going on. My son, actually, who's recently got his license and he's in the whole car scene. So he's one of an example of, I think there's actually a growing trend of younger guys and girls getting back into the older JDM since they can afford it. So his first car is an NA MX-5 manual, which, Richard, you know all about it. And it's this whole sort of a car scene I didn't even know existed, where it is an appreciation of older Japanese classics on a budget. And so the target is to have stuff that's under $10,000, $12,000 that they can realistically afford and run. It is still out there, but it's not stuff that we expected it to be.
No, and it's not those young guys that are driving the market though. It's us. It's guys our age who had it when you were younger. We have some money now. We want it again that are driving it. I mean, we have a friend within the industry, Graham, with how many MX-5s has he got? A lot. And yep, I've got friends with Supras and Soras and all that kind of stuff in the garage that they could barely afford them back then, and they can afford them now, but they're just a bit more expensive. So, yeah. Anyway, look, I think that's enough for today. Bit of fun there. That was a good one. Thank you again for joining us on a Friday morning. Amos, hope you enjoyed your time with us today.
Well, there's my morning coffee.
And Graham, sorry you can't be here on the actual time, but hopefully your trip goes okay and you get a good quality rental from Easy.
Yeah, and watch Carjam's numbers this afternoon. This morning. Go.
You're going to tell the team
anyway,
straight after this. Yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone. We'll catch you later.